The weekend before the All-Star break, how do we make some money on this huge MLB slate? Well, we'll be breaking down Yankees, Orioles, Marlins, Reds, Cubs, Cardinals. How should you bet on those games? And we'll have best bets for you coming in Dodgers, Tigers, and Brewers versus Nats. All of that is coming your way right here live on First Pitch on WagerTalk TV. Dan Alexander with you. I got Bryan, Leonard, and Adam Trigger joining me. Hey, while you're hanging out with us, if you're on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. Comment below and let us know what your best bets are. If you're on Instagram, TikTok, or X, hit that follow button and keep those questions coming throughout the show. Bryan, let's get going, man. I mean, this is a huge Friday slate here heading into the weekend. Let's talk Yankees and Baltimore with you here right out of the gate. Now, this is a game that we want to keep an eye on some weather. I think what's going to happen is maybe a late start, but should be able to get a game in. But, man, Bryan, for these two teams, it's almost like they're mirror images of each other, where it's good teams who we know are good teams who are playing really bad right now. Baltimore, they just get swept by the Cubs. Yankees lost another series. This time it was to the Rays. The thing is, one of these teams is going to have to bounce back here a little bit, and we got Gerrit Cole on the mound against Povich. I mean, there's no crying in baseball, and there's no tying in baseball. So somebody's got to win this game, Bryan. Who do you think it'll be?
Well, they don't have to win, as you mentioned, because of the weather. And that is our only concern about this game here. I sent this over that this was going to be one of my plays at minus 115. As soon as I sent it over, it got hit. And so now we're looking at the best line. We're looking at for the Yankees is 121. That's still fine. I still think there's value being there. Yankees are about a game and a half behind Baltimore, but they've outscored them on the season in net runs by 12. So the Yankees are still a very good team. Obviously, Stanton's no longer in the lineup right now, and he's down. And, obviously the Baltimore lineup from 1 to 9 is the better lineup, no doubt about it. But we've got Gerrit Cole coming in, and he's pitched enough innings now where he doesn't have big strikeout numbers, but I think he's going to be able to do that here. He's starting to get a feel for his pitches again, getting back into the major leagues after that long layoff. So I want to back on Cole. You take a look at what he's done career-wise against this Baltimore offense. He's been pretty good. Cade Povich is a guy who his numbers were pretty good, but if you look under the hood, he wasn't all that impressive. Last time out, he got bombed. The Yankees do hit lefties pretty well. They're 3% better than league average on hitting lefties. I think they'll get to Povich here. Povich is he's got a good future, but he's just not there. He doesn't throw enough pitches yet. And you find a lot of these young guys, when they enter the major leagues, they're good at one or two pitches. And once they get hit at those pitches, they got nothing else to go with. And that's what happened last time out for Povich. I prefer the Yankees here. Both teams, as you mentioned, struggling right now. And to be honest with you, I lost a couple times this last few days on the Baltimore Orioles. Very disappointing offensively in those games. So I'll take advantage of the slumping Orioles offense, and I'll play the veteran Cole here at a reasonable number at 125 or 121. I'd probably lay 125 here on the Yankees. But keep in mind, this could be a game where we have a lot of starts and stops as the day goes on.
So true.
And I'd much rather have the veteran on the mound than a young person.
Yeah, it's a good point. Have a little bit more, someone who's had to do a little bit more of that start and stops. Yeah, this Baltimore and Yankees game, one that we want to keep an eye on with the weather. Basically the same thing that we're seeing in Philadelphia. They're taking on the Oakland A's. And the other one that we want to keep an eye on is Colorado at the New York Mets. That little tri-state area there is definitely seeing some effect from the weather. So, if we see anything on that here, we'll keep you updated. But just something to keep in mind. Something to keep in mind, too, is Trig still seeing it on the diamond. And Trig, you want to get into this Marlins and Reds game. The other day when we had you on, we were tongue-in-cheek. We were like, if there's anyone who could make a case for the Marlins, it's my man, Adam Trigger. Well, Marlins, they lost 3 straight. You said, I can't even make a case for them when they were taking on the Brewers. Reds, they were coming off a series win, but it was against the Rockies. So is this the time, my man, AT, that we can finally make the case for the Marlins? What do you think?
Yeah, Dan. Well, unfortunately, real quick, I ended up having a 5%er on the Marlins yesterday. That was something that I put out while we were on the show, and I'm not going to sit here and complain about it, but I will point out that I feel like it's a little bit of a tough loss. So the big reason that I was on the Marlins, I thought it was a great spot to fade Jake Bloss, who the Astros had penciled in to start that game. I knew he was coming off a little bit of a shoulder thing. The Marlins hit the Astros 11-5 yesterday, and they allowed the Astros to score twice on an error. And they also left a guy on third with no outs twice. So they end up losing a game 6-3, where they went 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position, left 9 on base. And, I think it was an unfortunate result for me. I'm bringing it up because it's going to be the lead-in to my handicap here. So I think when this, you see this series get priced and these two teams get priced, I feel as though the odds makers and the bettors, which we're starting to see now as this number starts to climb a little bit, are going to look at this series as if the Reds are a significantly superior team. And I would disagree with that. I think the Reds are marginally better. They definitely win more close games, but the Reds are not a great baseball team either. I actually think just looking at this series, looking at these games individually, that this is far more even than these numbers suggest. The only team with worse playoff odds right now in the National League than the Marlins, Nationals, and Rockies is the Reds. So that should tell you something as well. I don't think the Reds are a great baseball team. And so for that reason, I have to look at the Marlins in this series and find a spot to jump in with them because I have these two teams a lot closer than I think the markets do. So one positive takeaway going into today from yesterday's game is that because the Marlins were behind for a lot of that game, they kind of just left Roddery Munoz out there, and he gave him 7 innings. That was not something I expected. Part of my play, I thought they would have him sort of go once through and then unload the top bullpen guys, but they fell behind, and I think they just kind of let him go, and he settled in and he gave him 7 innings, which is key because the Marlins saved all of their good bullpen guys, and the Marlins bullpen has quietly been pretty good. It's been kind of the one bright spot there. So you might see, tonight you're going to be able to go Tanner Scott, Nardi, Bender, AJ Puck in the later innings, and I think that definitely gives them a chance. Now, when I look at the starting pitching in this game, these two guys are very even. Again, I don't see this minus 150 advantage for the Reds here. Carson Spires probably has a little bit more upside, but, he's similar to Yanni Chirinos. I think, 3 years from now when we're talking about Carson Spires, he's going to be like an organizational depth guy, probably spends time at AAA, time in the big leagues. He was rolling at AAA this year. It's what earned him a call-up. But the big leagues is just a different story. And I think we've started to see him level out a little bit. 3 of his last 4 starts, 3 or more earned runs. I think he probably gets hit more times than not at the big league level. Whereas at least Chirinos, he's going to be 31 this winter. He's sort of proven that, he's not going to be a frontline starter, but he's going to go 5 innings and he's going to keep you in a game. You can almost set your watch to it. Whether it has been at Jacksonville this year, whether it's been with the Marlins, he goes 5 innings, gives up 2 runs, and he's going to keep you in the game, which is something I like here based on what I just said with the bullpen. If he gives us 5, we're probably going to get Puck, Bender. You probably still have Tanner Scott at the end. That was a pretty, stress-free inning for him yesterday. So I think that sets up nicely, for the Marlins. So when I add it all up and I look at this game, I look at 2 things. One, I see this relatively even, so plus money should be good. 2, the way I like to play these bad teams, though, Dan, I really prefer to have the 1.5. And so, right now where it's at, minus 140, I'm not going to play it as a best bet. But if people keep pounding the Reds here, and that plus 1.5 gets down to minus 130, in that range, maybe 10 cents better, I may add it to the client card. So I'm looking at the Marlins again. I haven't played it yet, but I definitely think there's some value here today.
Reds overpriced. We got agreement from Winning Matters over on TikTok. Shout out to the chat over there. Shout out to the chat on YouTube. It is bumping. Memphis Money, Landon Jackson, JT, Hal, L, Professor Chris over on the shorts feed. We got Durko Gaming saying Trig is a chick magnet. That's great praise for you there, Trig. Loving the breakdown there. Drew Schultz, Richie Lockhart, G Hurt. Love the chat blowing up while you're hanging out with us. Hit that like button. If you're on TikTok, make sure you hit that follow. Instagram, X, we would appreciate it. And subscribe if you're watching us on the good old-fashioned YouTube channel. You can find us at WagerTalk wherever you want to on social. Johnington over on TikTok, he had a question for you guys. You guys both like betting dogs here. You know, Steve Merrill talks all the time. We haven't gotten to see him. He's on a bit of a vacay, but he talks all the time about catching falling knives. And Johnington is looking to maybe do that today, taking plus money with the San Diego Padres against the Atlanta Bravos. The Padres, it seems like ancient history when they beat the D-backs, get 6 games over 500, because since then, the offense can't hit. 4 straight losses for them, only 4 runs in a 3-game span. So Johnington might want to grab that plus money, Bri, but I don't know if I'm interested in backing the San Diego Padres with the current form. Like, they seem, this weekend, I feel like, is finding out which teams are mailing it in, just looking forward to the break, resetting, and the Padres feel like a team that really just wants to reset and cling on towards the All-Star break, and that's not a team I want to put my money on. What do you think, Bri?
That's a great point about teams going into the break. I've made tons of money over the years in the NBA playing veteran teams against young teams going into the break, especially for young teams that have some rookies that haven't played this many games before. So you find out what kind of heart these players have, and it's worked in the NBA and it also works in Major League Baseball. Fully understand that. This Atlanta team has been there before. They do have a rookie starter going today in Schwellenbach, but he's very good. I think he's going to be in the rotation the rest of the year. But for the most part, it's a veteran team, and they entered the season expecting to win. Now, when in your first month of the season you lose the best pitcher in baseball, you lose the best hitter in baseball, obviously your goals may be a little bit different right now. And the Braves, and I've talked about it, right now, they're bringing up some guys that shouldn't be on major league level teams, and they got some outfielders out there that shouldn't be there. But they're waiting for the trade deadline, and hopefully they can turn it around a little bit here. But I prefer the Braves here. I'm not against going against any underdog in a certain situation, but Vasquez is a guy who I played Vasquez, I believe, one of the last times I was on the show, and it worked out well. But for the most part, he is probably the 6th or 7th starter on this team. And unfortunately for Atlanta, because of injuries, they've had to pull up some guys from the minors. But I prefer Atlanta, but it's probably going to be a lower scoring game because I don't think either one of these teams are hitting very well right now. That would be the way I would look here. Even though I think Atlanta's going to win, the under 8.5 at 15 seems to be a pretty good number here. San Diego's ballpark is more of a hitter's park this year than it's been in the past, but still, I would look towards the under in this contest.
Yeah, and Teddy Covers calls them leading indicator books. Some of them have moved to 8 already. So if you want to grab that extra half, avoid some potential push if you're looking towards that under. No key number of 9, but there are some 8s showing on the board. So probably closer to game time, you're going to be looking at 8s painted in this one. So if you do want to back that under, probably one that you want to go and grab right now. Trig, any thoughts for you in that Padres game? If not, we'll get to talk about your true love, and that's the Chicago Cubs taking on the Cardinals. But anything you want to put a pin in here on the Padres?
I considered the Padres today. So this goes back to yesterday. Okay. My best bet from the show yesterday was the Diamondbacks, kind of still in fade Braves mode, but of course Arizona finds a way to win 1-0. It kind of, I had a best bet against the Braves 2 nights ago. So kind of back to last night where I'm just now I'm not dying to go against the Braves in this spot after they've lost a couple, but I do still think Randy Vasquez is starting to figure it out a little bit. He's someone that got rocked when he first came up to the big leagues because he throws 6 different pitches. We've talked about him on First Pitch a few times. He's starting to figure out his pitch mix. So I do think there's some upside to Vasquez and some upside to the Padres, who I really think are a very good baseball team. So just didn't end up falling into the spot I kind of would have liked, but I certainly lean toward the Padres here.
All right, well, Trig, I'll throw it right back your way because the one team that you've been banging the table for and you didn't sour even when everybody else did was the Chicago Cubs. They're taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. And Chicago is not only playing well, man. They're rolling back-to-back shutouts, outscoring the O's 12-0. I mean, maybe that has more to say about what the O's are doing right now than what Chicago does. But if you keep rolling backwards, 9-2 win against them, 5-0 win against the LA Angels. So maybe you wish you had a little bit more impressive opponent in back-to-backs. But Chicago's offense can't be denied right now. And you're looking at a St. Louis team that the last time they played was 2 days ago, and it was when they lost in a doubleheader against the Royals in both games. So for you, I mean, I know you love your Cubs. This feels like you just keep riding the Cubs because, we talked about teams that you might want to fade heading into the All-Star break. This is a team that's let's stack some wins. We're rolling right now. They seem like a team who is primed to use this All-Star break finite cutoff that's coming on Monday as something to kind of galvanize them to keep stacking the wins against the ball club that they kind of match up pretty well against here, I would say.
Yeah, Dan, I want to know what Kyle Hendricks has on someone in that organization. He must have dirt on someone. Because
that's the one part that makes it tough. That's fair.
There's guys at the AAA level for the Cubs that are having very good seasons. And there's upside guys at AA that I mean, I don't agree with it, but all these other organizations trot guys with no experience out there and see what happens at the big league level. So the fact that the Cubs are now 45-49, they're very much in the hunt in the National League, which is, has a lot of mediocre baseball teams. And they're still throwing Kyle Hendricks out there in the middle of July in a game that they need is baffling to me. So I can't bet the Cubs here. I'm not going to take Hendricks in his 7+ ERA. Other than that, I love the way the Cubs are playing ball though. I think that earlier this week was a little bit of both. Orioles having some regression, but the Cubs played well. The Bellinger situation sucks. He's probably out for a little while. At least, he wasn't in the lineup yesterday, but they called Canario up, who's someone I am kind of high on in terms of his long-term outlook. So it would have to be just throw anyone other than Hendricks. I'm probably in on the Cubs here, especially if I could get +1.5. That's tempting. You get +1.5 with the Cubs on the road, but you have to survive probably 5 innings of Hendricks. So nothing for me. Let's see. Well, it's just frustrating.
Right. Yeah. No, I completely get you. And that's, maybe I was trying to bait you in taking some plus money here with the Chicago Cubs. But Bryan, if we hate Hendricks, and I know, Sonny Gray, especially when he's played against the Chicago Cubs side, he's thrown some of his best stuff and you have a good 12 games to draw on. But with how Chicago's hitting still, there's a bullpen that's going to come into this game eventually, unless we get a no-no from Gray. Painted 8 across the board. I mean, Chicago's hitting well. We don't like Hendricks. I mean, why don't we just bet that 8? I'm surprised we're not seeing more over money showing in this game. Any reason why you think there might not be?
I have no problem with Kyle Hendricks. Everybody knows he stinks, which means we get a great number. But if you look,
true, that's a good point.
If you look at what he has done, his average exit velocity is in the 96th percentile. Hard hit percentage is in the 95th percentile. His fastball stinks. His fastball velocity is in the 1 percentile. It's the worst in baseball. But he doesn't throw it very often. His four-seamer he only throws 12.4% of the time. If you've listened to me, anybody's listened to me all season long, I love what the Red Sox are doing. The Red Sox are cutting back on the fastballs. When you are a little kid, you learn how to hit fastballs. As you get older, you're good at hitting fastballs, and then you got to start hitting other pitches. If you've got pitches out there that nobody knows, nobody sees, those like the knuckleballs, those are the guys that are going to have success. Unfortunately, most of the knuckleball pitchers only throw knuckleballs. That's their main pitch. But if you get guys out there that throw 6 or 7 different pitches and they don't throw their fastball very often, those are guys that are going to have a lot of success. And so I think the line's too high here. There's no way I think St. Louis should be in this price range. So I will hold my nose and bet Kyle Hendricks here, and hopefully he doesn't throw any fastballs and St. Louis can't knock him off. But you look at his hard hit percentage, 30.4. That's 6% better than league average. I mentioned the exit velocity. That's 3% lower than league average. He keeps batters off balance. Those are the kind of guys, the Bartolo Colons, the Kyle Hendricks, those kind of guys I made a lot of money on over the years. So sometimes you just got to hold your nose and bet the team that's getting that big number, and the Cubs are. So I like the Cubs here.
That's inspiring. I'm not going to do it, but I love hearing that.
You want to, though.
More Cubs.
You want to.
I have so many Cubs like futures and all the stuff that are
be a nice one to
like
pick
just
up.
about to be coasters. So I do need some of those wins, and that's so I like that Bryan has that vote of confidence going into tonight.
We got G Hurt saying we need to hear the cat on this one. That would really what would make him feel good about the about Hendricks and the Cubs is if he gets that meow, that means the nuclear whale play is incoming. We had Craig Love 1-1-1 over on the TikTok feed. He was just saying the Yurfie. It just sounds so like coded and beautiful when you just put it like that, as simple as the Yurfie. Not saying what game, not saying what, just the Yurfie. He probably means here in this Cubs and Cardinals game. The one thing that I would say, maybe Hendricks gets cracked here in the first. But if you look at this little run of offense for the Chicago Cubs team, only one of the games, and it was 2 games ago against Baltimore, did they actually score one of these big runs in the first inning. So, while it seems like that offense is completely rolling, it does take him a little bit to settle in these games. So the Yurfie, while it seems like the low-hanging fruit, might just not be there. So I caution you, Craig, but if you do bet the Yurfie, best of luck to you, my man. I wish you luck on that play. Just sometimes things aren't as they seem as we dive in there. As you're hanging out with us, make sure you keep those comments coming. Hit that like button and subscribe. We would appreciate it wherever you're tuning in on. We keep growing this platform. And into football season, folks, you're going to want to make sure you're subscribed because the content is going to be coming fast and furious your way. And you baseball diehards, don't worry, just because football is right around the corner doesn't mean we're not going to get you winners all the way through the World Series. Don't you worry. Bryan, I thought there was a great question for you from Professor Chris over on the YouTube Shorts feed because he brings up that this week of the All-Star break sometimes gets a little bit wonky, and it's something that you, as a spot capper, have really taken advantage of finding some of these teams that end up mailing it in. He says, my model has been killing it this season, but I've been giving some back these past few days. Is there something to this week, being that we're heading into the break, or do I just keep playing like I usually would? He also asked the question for coming out of the break. So as someone who really finds a way to dial in at these times, does your approach change around this All-Star break, or is it just really fit in well to what your approach always is?
Yeah, you do have to take into account what the team goals are coming into the season. Are they still alive in those goals? The Cubs were a team that came into the season expecting to get to the playoffs. They're still alive. They're only, they're still alive for the wild card, and that's the whole division. Trig mentioned Cincinnati Reds. The reason why the Reds futures are so bad is because they're in last place in the division along with the Cubs, and they got teams to jump over to win it, but that doesn't mean that they don't think that the Reds are a decent team. Yeah, you always have to take a look at what the goals of these teams were coming into the season. You find your Colorados, your Chicago White Sox. I'm surprised Oakland's doing so well right now, but these are teams that didn't have any expectations coming into the season. And you've got a nice break coming up. And unfortunately for a lot of these guys, they don't have to worry about the All-Star game. They're going to have one entry that's going to make it to the All-Star game on these teams. So these guys are planning their vacations and getting away, where a lot of teams that have been in this position before take advantage of those teams. at this time of year. So you have to find those spots. So, yeah, you do have to handicap it a little bit slightly different going in and out of the All-Star break. But other than those, 10 days, 2 weeks, if you've had a lot of success with your system going on, I expect it to bounce back for you.
Jack Barkow, you guys are so fire with a bunch of hearts. Literally hit a plus 1,200 parlay yesterday with all your takes weekday. Went 7 for 7 on bets. So when days like that come, we love it when people, let us know, hey, I won some coin off you, because as both of the gentlemen alongside me know, the losing days are just as loud. So we're happy we helped you out win there, Jack. That's what we look to do here. We appreciate you giving us some props there. Ashton wants to hear about the Pirates game here today on TikTok. So don't worry, we got you, Ashton. So let's take a look at the Pirates. What I'm seeing, I still don't see a pitcher. I don't know if you guys are seeing anything different. For me, it's going to be Crochet for the Chicago White Sox. So we got a lefty battle, 7.5, ugly total in this one. Looks like it should be an absolute barn burner. Trig, I'm going to you to get your thoughts on the Chicago White Sox. I mean, if you're not indoctrinated here on First Pitch, the Chicago White Sox plus 1.5 moniker has been one that Trig wears with pride. Anytime a bell rings, an angel gets its wing. Anytime anyone bets Chicago White Sox plus a 1.5, Adam Trigger gets his wings. How are you looking to bet this one? Have you seen anything about the pitcher or the potential pitcher for the Pirates, or are you just holding off on this one until you get that info?
Well, definitely holding off until I get that info. But you know what Trig doesn't come on here and do is play the White Sox when they're minus 200. So I can only play against that. Now, I know that there's a little bit of a narrative. You'll see it probably trend on Twitter at some point that the Pirates struggle the day after Paul Skeens. I think that's random. I think that has to do with the fact that the Pirates aren't a very good baseball team. But the White Sox aren't a very good baseball team either. I actually think they've lost. They've managed to lose Crochet's last 2 starts, even with him pitching well. I didn't have his numbers in front of me. I know he pitched well in one of them. I think last week, the Marlins, I think he pitched well, and then maybe Jake Berger hit like a walk-off 3-run homer in his start. There's a couple of guys, so I don't know exactly what the Pirates are going to do, but this is one that's like on my radar for a potential best bet. So it would depend on a couple things. One, when they announce what they're going to do with the pitching, for sure, if it's something that I like. And 2, if this steams enough in Crochet's favor where I could get Pirates plus 1.5. You know what I mean? Like, those would be the 2 things right now. Like the line that we have listed on the screen, minus 145. That's too much. I wouldn't play that. But what's going to happen is there's going to be a pitcher announced, and then the market's going to make a decision, right? Like how they want to play this. That might mean Crochet steams up to minus 200. The plus 1.5 gets a little bit more playable, and then I might have to take it, because even though I don't think the Pirates are as good as they've been sort of, getting some credit for because of Skeens, Jones, so on and so forth, I still think they're a better team than the White Sox. So this is definitely wait and see. There's some guys like I'd love to see if they call up Braxton Ashcraft. I got to see when he last pitched. But there's a couple guys that I'd be interested in, depending on who it is for the Pirates here.
Yeah, and again, until we see that pitching decision there for the Pirates, we won't belabor the point on this one too much, but some good food for thought there from our man Adam Trigger. Cleveland Guardians, we got a question from Baseball Edits over on the YouTube Shorts feed. Thanks for chiming in. The question is simple, Bryan, and it's Guardians, do they win their next game? Their next game is going to be here in Tampa Bay, and the Guardians are coming off doing something that they haven't really done since the end of June, and that's losing back-to-back games. So the bounce-back spot is nigh. They go on the highway to do it, looking to snap that 2-game skid, opening up this 3-game set. The question's simple. Do they win their next game? What does Bryan Leonard think?
If you've watched the Cleveland offense this year, they have definitely overperformed. Just about everybody on the team has overperformed. If you take a look at the root numbers, the advanced stats, Cleveland is probably the most overperforming offense in Major League Baseball. It's bound to come back to regression. and it has. And that is something that I'm concerned with. Taj Bradley is by far the best pitcher out of the two. Carlos Carrasco, great guy, but he seems to get hit, as I mentioned before, one bad inning every time he pitches. Whether it be the first or his last, he can't go through an entire rotation 2 times without getting hit. That is a concern. I do like Tampa here. I'm hoping to get something in the 120-something range here. Cheapest I'm seeing is 130 over at Bet Online right now on the WagerTalk live service. If I can get something in the 120s, I'd probably be on Tampa. Tampa is a team very much like Cleveland. They do a lot of the rotating of the players, having a guy start and then he gets pitch hit for. We see a lot of teams doing that anymore. That's the way to do it. Tampa was one of the teams that started the starters, just pitching the one inning. They haven't done that as of late, which is great because when you're betting, and I think we saw that in, what was it, the Dodgers game yesterday or something? There was one guy that came in and pitched 1 inning and threw off everybody's bets that they had played earlier. I hate that. But Cleveland's just not hitting very well right now. Tampa Bay is a team I think is peaking, or at least starting to peak right now. So if we get something in the 120s, I'll be on Tampa Bay.
Navi on the TikTok feed asking, hey, we're looking at a Dodgers bounce back, as Bryan had just mentioned that game there. Dodgers game against Detroit is coming up here in the best bet segment, so hang out just a couple minutes away here. We're going to be giving you some thoughts on Dodgers and Detroit. Bryan has a best bet in that game, and you can check out his page over at wt.buzz/BL. Trig going to have a best bet in the Brewers and the Nationals game. So best bets coming up. We'll just hit a couple more games right before that, and then we got best bets coming your way before we shut things down here for the week, heading into the weekend here. One of the questions from G Hurt earlier was, why don't we just hammer the over in the Phillies and the Oakland A's game? One of the reasons that I would say is because we've already seen, and I don't worship at the altar of sharp money, but we've seen money coming here for the under. So we've already seen it get pushed off of the key number of 9, looking at 8.5s in some key spots, and it looks like the market's going that way. The other reason for me is that Ranger Suarez is going to be on the bump for Phils with his 10-3 record. I think sub-3 ERA is what you're looking at. So, and the third reason is rain. Who knows if this entire game is going to be played? If it is played, you could be looking at some stop-start, not keeping people into motions. That's what maybe worries me about an over. Anything worry you about this game, Bri? What's your thoughts here?
If you're looking at, I definitely understand, the rain is a concern because you don't know how long these guys are going to go. But Oakland on the season has got to be WRC plus of 108 versus lefties. Philadelphia against lefties 118. So from that standpoint, I would think the over would be the way I would take a look at this. Yeah. And when you're looking at the lines that are out there right now, we're looking at there's some 9s, there's some 8.5s over. I get 8.5 over 16 at Pinnacle if you were to play that right now. To me, that's bettable. Harris is not a guy I'm looking to put my money on. Suarez has been great all season, but he's overperformed, and we are going to get that regression as it goes on. Will it happen now or will it happen later on? Who knows? But I would not have any problem playing this game over between Oakland and Philadelphia.
All right.
Oakland does not hit for a very good average, but they do hit home runs, and this is a good park for hitting home runs.
Yeah, and also let me clarify there, as I was giving you the devil's advocate points of why maybe you don't hammer the over. I'm not betting the under in this game either. I think the total, once I saw the forecast, was the easy cross-off for me. Any thoughts, side? I mean, if you're betting the Phils, Trig, you have to do it creatively, because with weather, even against the A's, sure, okay, you could maybe talk me into a Phillies parlay piece, but the Phils are flying high. Like, this is a quintessential letdown spot. The only problem is I wish it was a little bit more of a quality ball club that they were playing if you wanted to bet the potential fall down after sweeping the Dodgers. Any thoughts on this one before we get some best bets for the folks?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have thoughts on this series. And I guess you could apply it to this game. So you guys got to remember, like these are still guys going to their job on a daily basis. And just think about how you are at your job the weekend before you get a week off, before you get vacation, right? Like these, and this goes for the entire league. And it's like something you need to keep in mind when you're betting games this weekend, especially on Sunday, because you're going to just see some people totally mentally checked out. Happens every year. These guys have been going at it since late February. A lot of them, some of them are going to go to the All-Star game, but a lot of them are going to get a week off. Well, a shortened week, 4 days, get to go home, get to go do whatever they want. So you are going to see letdowns this weekend. You're going to see guys maybe get an extra day. So you're going to see like a team like the Phillies probably going to give their stars maybe even an extra day in this series. So I wouldn't come out laying $3, minus 275, minus 280, minus $3 this weekend with the Phillies. I don't see how that's going to make you money over the course of this series. I think they're going to be a massive favorite in every game they play this weekend. So, I mean, this isn't the spot I want to get involved. I don't have a ton of faith in Harris, but like, I wouldn't bet the Phillies this weekend. You would have to find a way in with the A's plus 1.5, take the big plus money. They're probably going to win one of these games. I don't know which one, but they're probably going to win one of these games.
Yeah, if only we had the crystal ball to tell us which of those nice plus money prices to take. But I think your point is a good one, Trig, and it's one of why I crossed that game right off my list. But when the listeners ask us, the viewers ask us any questions, we try and hit on as many as we can. We're rapidly approaching the end of the show, though. So last thing I will mention before best bets is Lord Farquaad. Haven't seen you in a while, man. It's good to have you back here. He was asking about any Nerfies. No run in the first inning. Yes or no bet for those of you who haven't bet any Nerfies or Yerfies. Now you know the terminology there. But he's saying any on the board. I always, when I want to look at some no run first innings, I go to Ralph Michaels on Twitter at CalSportsLV, and I check out his MLB first inning report. He has the Reds as cashing 13 straight Nerfy bets. It was one of the plays he had for clients yesterday. Mets on a 12-1 Nerfy run. Pittsburgh 10-1. And RU Zen pointing out a good formula is to fade the Pirates after their starts with Skeens. The next game 8-2 if you're following up on that. So if the Bats know about that trend, maybe Pittsburgh game a potential Nerfy candidate. But you can check those out at Cal Sports LV, one of the best at breaking down no runs in the first inning. All right, gentlemen, best bets. Let's do it here. Bry, let folks know what they can get over at your page. Currently a great special going on where folks can get 30 days of all access, just $7 a day. And with this All-Star break coming, don't worry, you can get these expert MLB handicappers getting you ready to go for NFL preseason. That's right. That's like a month away. Insane to me that we're going to be talking football already. But with this All-Star break, you get that access tacked onto the back of your access. So, Bri, what'll folks find over at your page? And how do we bet this game that folks have been asking about? The Dodgers and the Detroit Tigers. The bounce back spot. It's the low-hanging fruit here for the Dodgers after getting swept by my Phils. Are we taking that plus money? Because it doesn't come along often.
You had mentioned the great specials going on right now at WagerTalk. I would recommend grabbing that special. The All-Star break is coming up, as you mentioned, 3 or 4 days. I don't handicap home run derbies or anything like that. So those 3 or 4 days will go on to your schedule. If we pass on any game, you get that day back. So it's an excellent time of the year to do it. And been number one in net profit in baseball the last 30 days, number one in baseball net profit the last 60 days, up to number 3 on the season in net profit, which is where we ended last year in Major League Baseball. So on a really nice run in baseball right now, and we dug a little bit of a hole coming out of the beginning of the year in April, which we seem to do every year. I don't understand it, but that's what's been going on. But since then, we've been on fire. And I don't have my plays up for today. All the games are on the evening card. I'm waiting for the best numbers to arrive before I can send those to my clients. But we'll have a full slate of games going today. And this one could be on there, and I expect it to be. I've already talked highly about Kyle Hendricks. Can I do the same thing here with James Paxton? I don't know. He finally got blown up his last time out. But when I take a look at these two starting pitchers, obviously Skubal's one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. Paxton's been a guy that has struggled, but look at all the wins that Paxton's been able to get for this Dodgers team this year. Is even with as badly as he's pitched, he's a veteran. He's an innings eater. He's going to give a good effort here. And one reason why I like the Dodgers here, and probably the major reason, is take a look at how these two teams have done versus left-handers on this season. And both pitchers are left-handers in this matchup. Detroit ranks 26th in WRC plus with an 86 WRC plus, which is 14% worse than league average. The LA Dodgers, on the other hand, rank number one, a 128. So we've got a 42% offensive advantage in this game for the Dodgers, and yet they're a pretty sizable underdog here. Dodgers have not been playing that well as of late. The offense has not been as good. It's the first four guys in the lineup are terrific. It's sort of like with the Yankees right now. You've got so many guys that are really good, and then you've got some weak hitters coming up after that. But still, I prefer the Dodgers in this matchup. A much better hitting team against lefties. And Paxton's a veteran. I'll get at least 4 good innings out of Paxton before or if he does get blown up here. So I will take the Dodgers as an underdog. And even though I like this Detroit team, they've got some good young players on this team. Skubal's great. I just can't pass up this value with a clearly better team here.
Yeah, Dodgers as an underdog, a phrase that will not be uttered much throughout the season, even when they're slumping a little bit. That's the best bet for Bryan. Hop below in the comments. Let us know what your best bet is today. We would love to see it. Make sure you hit like and subscribe while you're hanging out with us. And follow if you're on the social media platform of your choosing. For you, you want to talk Brewers and Nats. Trig currently on a 6-1 baseball run. A tough one last night, but looking to bounce back off of it. How are we looking to bet this game, Trig? And I'm going to put you here so we don't get Kelly mad. I got a shot clock ready to go here for you, Trig. So no pressure. Brewers, Nats, and how are we betting with you? The stopwatch has started.
Yeah, so as you guys know, I don't have anything up for sale yet, but I may have something. I'm waiting to see what the Pirates do with their pitching. I'm waiting to see what the Red Sox do with their pitching. I did drop a 5%er last night, but I wasn't, my handicap I still feel like was good. I didn't think Bloss would do much. He didn't. The Marlins just made a couple of mistakes, couldn't cover the +1.5. That's where I've made my money this season in Major League Baseball. Is I think my assessment of certain AAA guys is better than the odds makers, and so that's what I'm looking at again here with the targeting the Brewers against the Nationals. So, first of all, the Brewers, the ball should look like a beach ball to them today because they just had to see Paul Skeens yesterday throw 7 innings of just absolute flames. Tough loss for them. Aaron Savali pitched great, and they lose a game 1-0 that our boy Jeff Michaels was lucky enough to be at. That's pretty awesome that he got to be in the building for that. But I'll give the Brewers a pass there because you know what? You're going to get shut down by a generational talent. You get a pass from me. I think they're likely to get back to winning ways at home. They're 23-8 in their last 31 games at home. All of their splits at home are better. And their Brewers are a good baseball team. They do a lot of little things right. They're a team that I think continues to take a step forward as the season goes along. On the other side, the Nationals, they're kind of playing their way out of the race in a NL wildcard picture that they should be able to hang around in. They're 4-13 in their last 17 games. The starting pitching's been atrocious, which explains this move that I'll get into in a second. But, I think another reason, so you're going to have Jackson Rutledge up for the Nationals tonight. I think for a couple of reasons. One, the Nationals just keep trotting out lefties every day, and many of which are not great. And it's like every day. Mackenzie Gore, Mitchell Parker, Patrick Corbin, DJ Hurst, they're all left-handed. And aside from Gore, they're all pretty average. So it's like, teams are able to just, like, especially ones that are good at hitting left-handed pitching, seem to feast on Nats pitching. I think they thought that this would be Josiah Gray. It looks like his injury is worse than expected. We're not going to see him for a while. So in comes Jackson Rutledge, former first-round pick, the 17th overall pick in the 2019 MLB draft. And I think this is just a move that They have no better options. This is a guy that was a first rounder, and someone somewhere in this organization was high enough on him that they'll probably lose their job if he, doesn't pan out. So they're like, whatever, let's go back with Jackson Rutledge here, which I don't think is a good idea. I've watched this guy a ton. I've seen him live a bunch because the Nationals AAA team is Rochester. It's like an hour and a half from me. I've seen him pitch at Syracuse, so I've got to see him in person quite a bit. He never really made the jump past AA. He had really good numbers beginning of the year at AA last year. Yet last season when he got to AAA was very average, 1.5 whip last year at AAA during his time in Rochester. So far this year, he's taken a step back. 6.66 ERA with a 1.65 whip in Rochester this year. I think he gets killed. And you know what, guys? Because I just got cut off. This is one of the games I'm going to use on Wager Talk today with Kelly, and I'm going to finish my breakdown there. But I really like the Brewers. I think they pound the Nats tonight.
It's a great tease for the next 7 minutes of the breakdown. Make sure you tune in on Wager Talk. No, when you had to get the buzzer was when you said AAA Rochester. I was like, all right, Trig's got to save this one.
Great, I was just there.
Today,
I was just there like last week. Great ballpark. Awesome field. Innovative field in Rochester.
All's well that ends well. Brewers laying the 1.5. Only -110 is what you have to do it. That's the best bet for Trigger. Hop below in the comments. Let us know. Was the bell good or was the bell mean? We want to know.
The comments are going to love the bell. People in the comments are going to love the bell. Let me tell you.
Are we keeping the bell for our man Trig? Bryan Leonard going with the Dodgers, getting plus money. That's the best bet. Get the true best bets for these guys. Locked and loaded over at their page. Great week of shows here. We appreciate you making us a part of your morning. Don't go anywhere. Less than 15 minutes from now, Trig, Andy Lang, and Art DeCesar joining Kelly Stewart and Teddy Covers right here live on the Wager Talk TV YouTube channel for Wager Talk today. Best of luck, everyone. Enjoy the All-Star break. We'll be back with shows next week here on First Pitch. Until then, keep that money in your pocket, keep stacking it, and we'll see you next time here on First Pitch.